Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm T with Teresa H Creates. I'm going to continue working on ephemera for my Curiosities cabinet junk journal that I am going to start later in October, possibly November, but it's going to be a big one. I know I'm going to need a lot of ephemera, so I've been working on putting some stuff together, trying to get into the mood, create a vibe for it, and I made these large specimen cards in another video, and I'll link it in the description box, but these are junk mail envelopes, and so I was just repurposing these, and so I've got some faux specimen cards here. And I want to continue making more. So pardon my mess. I'm working with the same products and inks and things, so I haven't cleaned up yet. I'm just kind of moving forward, so I apologize if it's not quite clean. I am working on these little guys, these smaller specimen slides. Let me see. You can see front and back. I don't think that they're focusing in. Let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. And then flip it over so it looks pretty much the same front and back. And I'm going to show you how I made these. So I have all of these little guys. I'm not sure where I got them, but I've had them in my stash for the longest time. This one is a little bit torn, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this. I kept thinking, I know I'll find some way to use these, and now's the time, right? This is why we hold on to things forever and ever. All right, let me set that aside to dry there for a second. So these guys are just cardboard slides, and I thought originally that I would just fold them up, right? But they were a little bit hard to work with that way, so I decided to just go ahead and cut them. So I'm cutting them in half. I'm wrapping them and tissue paper, and so it was just a little bit easier for me to work with them separated. So I am going to go ahead and cut them all in half. Hopefully this is mostly dry. There we go. And then I wanted to put some tissue paper on them to kind of get something working in the background, and I have this lovely tissue paper. I've got to figure out, I know where I got this. I got this from Root & Company, but I don't recall what the name of this is. So I'll look back and see what the name of this is. But honestly, any tissue paper will do. Even if you just had some plain tissue paper, that'll do, because it'll add some texture. And I think that because this is such a slick surface on here, on mine anyway, that it'll help grab ink better. So I am going to flip this over, and all I am doing is gluing these guys down. So I'm going to take my art glitter glue, and you don't need a huge amount. Just go around, and then I'm going to set it right down there. And I need to space them out because I am going to be wrapping them. So I was spacing them out a little bit so that when I cut them, there's plenty of tissue between them to go ahead and wrap them. So I have some big ideas for this Cabinet of Curiosities journal, and I'm just hoping that I can pull it off. I'm still toying around with it a little bit, but I'm pretty excited about this one. I do know that I'm going to need quite a bit of ephemera. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to have 5 or 6 signatures in this book, but there will be quite a few, and I'll need stuff. And even if I don't end up using all of this ephemera, it'll be good to have in my stash. And I'm really excited that I'm finally going to be using these guys, because again, I've had these at least for a decade, and they've just been waiting for their moment to shine. All right, last one. And there we go. I'm just going to give them a rough snip. So as far as this Cabinet of Curiosities goes, I think I'm going to have several sections. So I am going to divide up my signature so that each signature has kind of a theme. right? So you're kind of moving through the cabinet and these things are all together, not like mixed in. So I for sure have insects, right? So I've got an entomology section, and then I'll have a botany section because I've got all these botanicals that I've been saving up. And then I'm going to have, I know, kind of like your cryptid, like your oddball specimens. I'll have a section for that. So that's 3. I'm debating on the other sections though. So I'm thinking maybe fungi, maybe something on human anatomy, and that would make 5. And I'm kind of thinking, do I need a 6th one, or do I need a different category? So I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. I'm going to do one of these with you on camera so that you can see how I'm doing this, and then I'm going to do the rest of them off camera so that you're not watching me do the same cutting and gluing, because once you've seen this once, you've seen it. So I've got it flipped over, and on the back side here, I'm just going to do an X right in that center, because that is going to allow me to fold these over. So now we've got a nice wraparound on the slide. Easiest way to get it covered. We're going to do a lot more with it, obviously, because it's going to go from this to this. So there is quite a bit we're going to do with it, but this is a good place to start. So like I said, if you have any kind of tissue paper, it'll just add some texture, preferably a printed paper. But if you don't have a printed paper or tissue paper and you just have a white, go with it. You can always, we'll be adding some stamping and stuff like that, so it'll be fine. It will be totally fine. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and miter these corners just like you would anything else, because we are going to fold these guys in. Get a little bit more. You're not really going to see the inside of this because we're going to glue 2 slides together, so don't worry about that, right? Okay, so this is obviously too wide. I need to give it a little bit more of a haircut. And this guy right here, for sure. Same thing over here. And I'm going to trim this guy down. And these other 2 I think are okay. So let's go ahead and do our smaller sides here. All right, I'm just going to fold that guy over. And I'm going to fold this guy over. Let me just put this on the paper. That way I've got better coverage. There we go. There we go. And voila, we're done. There you go. That was it. All right, I am going to go ahead and do the rest of my slides because I have quite a few off camera, and then I'll be back and we'll finish decorating these up. All right, I've got all of my slides covered. That's what it looks like on the back. So they're just folded over, and they're still nice and thin because we use the tissue paper on them. So now I'm going to give them some color, and I chose Distress Oxide and Gathered Twigs. And I've got this sponge here, if I can open this, that I've been using to apply because I wanted something large to apply color. So I'm going to use my silicone mat, and I'm just coming in and I'm giving it a nice layer of color. Look at that. See, already transformed. Let me pick up some more. And there we go. Lovely. Okay. Let me set that aside and put this up before I get ink everywhere. Wipe my hands off just a bit. And then I have the rest of them. I already inked those up. Let me lay them out. Okay. And then I'm going to give them a light spritz. Let some water sit on them. It'll activate that ink. And it'll create some spots. Trying to get just a little bit. Okay. It'll activate that ink and it'll create some spots there. And I'm going to let it sit for just a second. And let me show you some of these up close. And I think you can see it now. You can see some of this spotting where I picked up some of the ink that I put down on those. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. All right, I'll let it sit for just a minute. I don't want it to like warp anything. So now I'm going to go in with some paper towel and go ahead and pick it all up. Pick up all this water. I'm not going to do any rubbing. I'm just going to put it straight down and lift. And then I think you can see where we've picked up some of the little water droplets and everything. And then that's what it looks like. We're going to be adding so many layers to these. Let me go ahead and get this so wiped so I'm not getting water everywhere. Okay, we'll roll this up and let's go ahead and decorate our frames. The frames, depending on what kind of image you have, the frames can either be horizontal or vertical, and it just depends. And I was going through and just stamping randomly. I wasn't paying attention to which way I was going to orient it before I did it. And honestly, I kind of like it that way because it just makes it a little bit more realistic, right? So we're stamping kind of all over and it doesn't necessarily have to be one way or the other, right? I'm going to go ahead and stick with that method. So the first thing I did was put down my largest layer. So I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair and Pinecone. And I have this stamp here, and it's like a collage stamp. It's got some text on it, some tiny text, and then it has this flower here. I'm not concerned with the flower. I'm just going to be using the text right here. So, and I'm going to do first and second generation stamps on these. And let's see. Don't think that it matters. We'll go there. And maybe some down here. Don't put too much thought into it. Just put it down. Let's see here. We just want to get some layers in here. There will be lots more stamping, so let's see, I might be able to get some more of that color. There we go. Actually like getting some of that text a little bit further over. It's nice. And I'm kind of rotating these around so that I'm getting this text in different orientations. There we go. Put a little bit here. Do some more down here. And I think that, get some right here. I think that we're good. All right, so we're done with this one. I'm going to put a quick clean off. And then let's see. Let's take our VersaFine Onyx and go ahead and put some more stamps on there. Let's see. I've got this lot stamp. Kind of get these in some sort of order here. So this just says lot number and has some numbers. I kind of want to put it on these guys that have a little bit more real estate. There we go. That'll be a good one over here. I'm going to put it right in here where this text is. Do a little something different. We'll put something right down there. I've got that black ink everywhere. And let's see, we'll put something right in here. This acrylic block is really long, so I have to be careful what I've got down around it. All right, and I'm loving this inspected stamp. I think that it's just a great stamp for this. So I'm going to go ahead and put inspected down on all of these. I mean, and do yours the way you want to. I'm just kind of giving you ideas of, you know, what to stamp on these guys, but you definitely do yours how you want. And it doesn't have to have inspected on it, obviously. I just think it's cute. Let's see. Put that right down there. And right over here. Everybody has it inspected. Okay, perfect. And then another one that I really liked on this stamp set is As Found. And I thought that was pretty cool for, you know, specimen slides to do an As Found. These are some of the same stamps that I used in my first video. And I'll link these if you're interested in any of these stamps. I'll link the stamps in the description box. I believe most of them I got from Amazon. Okay, this one needs an As Found, and then here we go. All right, now I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I have this group of numbers here. I'm going to add some color to this. And I'm going to use Distress ink and peeled paint. And it's a light color, but we don't need it to stand out. If you look closely, you can see it. Some of these I'm going to put it in several places. No rhyme or reason, just adding color, adding layers. Put that there. So on some of these it shows up, you know, obviously, and then others you have to kind of look at it. And that is fine. You gotta look closely to find all the details, and that's what we want. I love as I'm looking through stuff and you catch something different every time, you know? I love that. Get a new detail every time. Right. Perfect. And it's great for these thinner sides too. Perfect. And then I'm going to go up to this received stamp. And it says received main office and then has some numbers, and I'm not sure what. I think it says answered. I'm not really interested in that though. I'm looking more for the received main office, and then if I get some of the numbers, that's fine. But I don't need that last line on there that has answered. So I'm going to do a partial stamp, but this is going to be Distress ink and the fired brick. So I'm going to add some more color to this. And there we go. A little bit of red. I'll show you some up close when I'm done here. Find a good place for this. We can do right in here. We can do this right in there. And right down there. Just filling in areas. There. What have we not gotten yet? This one. And then let's get one over here on this side. I think that it looks good. Okay. There we go. Now, before we add the centers and pop them together, I'm going to go in with my walnut stain and I'm going to ink up the insides of these. We're going to just give them a good inking. There we go. There they are. Okay, now let's go ahead and start putting some of these together. So there are a couple of different ways that I'm doing this, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this method first. So what I am doing for this is just taking some packing tape, and this packing tape section right here got a little bit hairy. So I'm going to take a clean section. I'm going to take off some because I'm going to double it up. So I'm going to take off plenty here, and then I'm going to fold it over onto itself. And give it a good burnish. All right. Now I'm going to set it down. I know you can't see, well, you can see it better probably than I can because it's shiny. I think it's showing up as shiny on your end. And then we're going to give it a stamp. Let's see, what are we going to use? I need something smallish that's going to fit. Let me use something I haven't done. I did beetles and flies in the last one. Let me get one of these moths and see if I can find one that's going to fit in one of these little windows pretty good. That is perfect. We're going to do this guy. So we're going to get this little moth. All right, let me place him. And then we're going to use StazOn solvent ink. Anytime that you are going to stamp on something with a coating that's slick, or you're going to stamp like on a metal, you're going to want to use a solvent ink, and StazOn is perfect. I don't know if I've used this stamp before, so let me, okay, got a good impression. All right, I'm going to find kind of the center-ish of this and give it a stamp. Not loving it. And this is the one thing about stamping on a slick surface, is it will move some. So you have to go straight down and come right back up. And I know that when I pushed it down, it kind of slid a little bit. So I used alcohol to clean the ink off completely. All right, let me try to hold this down a little bit. I don't want my thumb to get in the way. There we go. Straight down and up. We smeared a little bit, but I'm okay with it. And that's what we've got. Like I said, with these, the detail isn't going to be 100%. It will slide some because it is a slick surface, but I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to let it dry. It does need some drying time. All right, so while we're letting that dry, let's move on to a few of the others. I have this guy. So this guy I stamped with the StazOn, but I stamped it on that faux vintage tape that I made out of packing tape and put on this wax paper. So I'm going to leave the wax paper backing on here so that I don't have any stickiness. I just wanted to see what it would look like with maybe some aged tape, like some vintage tape. And so that's why I went ahead and stamped him. And let's make sure I'm not going to have anything going off the edges. Nope, tape's perfect size. All right, I am going to use my tape runner because the tape will grab onto that slick surface, and it is going to be sandwiched in between two slides. So that's fine. All right, so let's look at a slide that we'll put on the back. We'll put this guy on the back. I'm not going to be too particular. So now I'm going to go in with my glue and try to get all around these edges and then stick this guy on. All right. Now I've got this guy on, and then look at that. Oh, I kind of like it with the aged tape. I think that looks good. much different than these guys. But if I wanted to add a little bit of aging to this, so this stamp is on top of a double layer, just like I did that one. It's on top of a double layer of tape, just folded on top of itself, and the stamp is on top. So if I wanted to go to this side and take some alcohol ink, I could always put a little alcohol ink on this side, and then it would show through. So that's also an option if you wanted to age the tape after the fact. So there's one. And then let's move on to another sample. So not this guy, this guy. Let's pull out another piece of tape. I just found that the tape was a little bit easier to work with, and it's the perfect width. And it was easy to work with. So I am going with it because I didn't want to have to cut like a bunch of little acetate pages. And I'm going to do this little butterfly here. I'm going to ink up the edges. I didn't want to use a lot of my acetate on it. Plus, I don't have a lot of real thin acetate. The acetate that I have is pretty thick. And I didn't want them to, you know, I didn't want it to add extra bulk. So the tape is a perfect option because you get that shiny, like it's actually a glass slide in there, right? You get the shiny, you get the transparency. It's all good. Okay, so I went ahead and just inked up the back of it just so that it wasn't bright white, since you'll be able to see both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and place this like center-ish. There we go, on the sticky side. And then I am going to fold this up on itself and then burnish it down. And I'm not really worried about bubbles. I'm not worried about bubbles or little wrinkles. Those don't bother me. If they bother you, you can be a lot more careful than I was. I kind of just fold it over and do it, and then, you know, burnish it down, and then whatever I get is what I get. So, but that's just kind of my take on it. I just don't feel like it needs to be perfect. It's not what we're doing here. So I went ahead and took the liberty of doing 2 more of these. So I did one of the flowers, and then I did one of the little mushrooms. And so let's go ahead and attach these guys. I do need to trim them up a bit so that the tape isn't hanging over these sides of the slide. I think that this is probably good. Yep, that'll fit. Okay. So let me tape this up. Tape. There we go. Now I'm going to put the glue around. I guess I probably should have found a backing to this ahead of time, but I didn't, so let's go there. So that's why I inked up the back of that, because it's going to see both sides. And I don't mind that it's not, I mean, these aren't like real specimen slides, so hopefully nobody's going to hold me to that, right? So there we go. Let's go ahead and do our butterfly. Let me trim this down. There we go. Perfect. All right. Right down. We'll glue this up. There we go. How cute. Okay, now our flower. Just giving it a little bit of a haircut. Make sure, always kind of double check to make sure that it's not going to stick out on the sides, that tape. I mean, we can always trim it, but I really want it like inside because I want the edges of this guy, I want the edges of these to really adhere together really well. All right. And that is not right. I keep doing that. I'm going to do it this way. All right. Perfect. There we go. So that's 2 different ways so far of doing this. So you can use your little ephemera bits to put them between the packing tape, and then you can use your vintage packing tape, or you can use clear packing tape and stamp on it. You just want to make sure that you use a solvent ink. Hoping that this is dry. I don't know that it is, but I'm not going to reach out and touch it. Just going to go ahead and put it down. I can work around it. We're going to go this way. Here we go. I usually give these a little bit longer drying time, but for the purposes of video, we're going to go ahead and do this, and I'm just going to be extra careful. All right, let's put the backing on. Press around the sides. Good deal. So then just the last step to this is just inking the edges. So I'm going to take my walnut stain. I'm going to go around and ink the edges of this. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to use this in my journal. So I haven't added any hardware to it, but I may go in and put an eyelet in it so that I can actually use it as a dangle. I'm going to wait until I actually start assembling the journal and I know for sure how I'm going to use this before I go in and add the hardware. I just think that makes the most sense. I am 99% sure that I'll use them as dangles, and I'll either use bulb clips or maybe a little bit of chain, you know, to attach them to either tags or even maybe like clusters or ribbon or what have you on the edge of the pages. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave them as is, because some of them I may just glue straight down, and then you would have only seen one side. So if that's the case, you wouldn't have even had to attach a backer here. You could have just left it as is and then glued it down straight to the paper. But again, I don't know how I'm going to use it, and I'd rather just have them ready to go. So that is it. Let me go ahead and give you another close-up. You can see the ink there from the green, the little numbers. You can see it here, inspected as found. You can see the received in the red. Here we go. Little numbers as found, inspected, the lot number. And again, there we go. Like the dried flower, front and back. And then this is ours that we did on the vintage tape. And I just left it again on that wax paper that it was attached to, so it's not 100% see-through, but I didn't have to put anything on the back to cover the stickiness. That's why I doubled over that packing tape, was so that it just wasn't sticky on the back, and I ended up having a completely transparent slide. And so here are the others. See, this is done with that solvent ink, and it's dry. They're dry. You're not going to get the clearest images using this, because these are a lot of fine details on a slick surface, but they're good enough. They're good enough for what these are. I think they look fine. You can still tell what they are. So that is it. I hope that you enjoyed this. Now, you do not have to run out and purchase these slides, these little cardboard slides. That is not what I'm encouraging at all. I'm using what I had. So if you have these cardboard slides, by all means, please use these. I'm going to do a third tutorial on specimen slides on how to make your own, similar to this right here. It'll be an alternative to this, to having these guys here. So watch for that video. I'd be interested in knowing which one is your favorite, if you like the stamped, if you like the actual aged look on this, or if you prefer like the nice colorful slides, or if you like all of them. I like all of them, so I can't decide. All right, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I'll be sure to reply. I will put links of the stamp sets that I used in the description box. If I do find these slides, these cardboard slides on Amazon, I'll link that as well if I'm able to find those, if I remember to look that up. Until next time, bye.